All right, welcome everyone to TC54 December's call. Uh, Fairly straightforward agenda today, not a lot going on. Um, just want to remind everyone of the code of conduct, the typical video recording and legal disclaimer. And the first order of business is really to approve the last meeting. We didn't meet in November, unfortunately, but the prior meeting minutes. So hopefully folks have had an opportunity to review this. But if there is any objections, and again, this is automatically generated from the Google Doc that Alyssa and others contribute to. But if there's any objection to this, let me know.
I actually see one thing. It's minor. I'm listed as an invited expert with my stackable address, but I'm here for the OSBA as an actual member. I'm not sure. I don't really care, to be honest, but yeah.
Okay, okay. Um, Is the email address this what I should be using?
Well, I have one over there as well. I can paste it in the
Okay.
chat, but honestly, it's not really that important for the notes.
Yeah, that's fine.
But yeah,
It's you are here as not an invited expert. There, correction made.
thank you.
All right. Anything else? Okay. All right. With that, let's say that the prior meeting minutes are approved. I don't see any new attendees. Does anybody have any announcements that they have? Okay. None from mine, me as well. We do have the first in a series of small things to review for the upcoming CycloneDX specification. So with that, there was a request from some folks in Russia to add support for a hashing algorithm that I personally had never heard of, but it is an RFC. It is a standard. So this is the ticket for it. And this is the pull request that the community has made to support that algorithm. Essentially, we are just adding to the existing enum that we currently support. The name of the algorithm is Streebog, and it's available in 256 and 512 derivatives. Again, we're just adding to the existing enums for protobuf, for the JSON schema, and for XML schema.
Never heard of that.
Is there, what's that?
I just said I've never heard of that
I have not
algorithm.
either.
I've seen it on the IETF mailing lists, and it's always interesting discussions surrounding the addition of these Russian technologies. I think we have to be careful of making sure that there are open source code available for this. RFCs can be informational, but they can also be on standard track. And some of these tend to be informational, just reserving namespace.
Right. Yeah, in this particular case, there is actually an RFC out there. It does specify the algorithm. So I personally didn't object to this. If it was if there was no international standard involved in it, I would have certainly questioned it. But is there any objection to adding support for this in 1.7? All right.
6986. No,
What's up?
I was just checking the RFC.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a report from the task group that further down.
What's up?
No, someone asked about the Exchange API T.
Oh, Yeah, we're not talking about T right now, though. We're just reviewing this.
later on.
Okay. Any
This is
objection to this?
This is an informational RFC, so it's not an RFC that is on IETF standard track. Basically,
right.
anyone can submit this. So
Right.
we shouldn't treat it as a standard, more as an information.
Right.
So the IETF doesn't back this up.
Right.
Okay.
Any objections? All right, I hear none. Let's go ahead and accept this then. So thank you for that. This will be included in 1.7 then. We still don't have a date for 1.7. There's a lot going into that release. It's going to be a fairly substantial release.
I see a question here in chat from Keith, or
Oh.
at least a comment on this. Yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry,
it was.
About-
just- I don't. You guys might have already gotten this from IBM, but there's some new quantum safe cryptography algorithms that are fairly recent. Hyber, I think, is the name of them.
Mhm.
We probably ought to look at as well. I think those are probably going to become quite popular over the next few years.
Yeah, absolutely. Good point. I'll reach out to the. I'm already talking to the IBM research team in Zurich on a bunch of CBOM related stuff. So I will. I'll get with them. Unfortunately, they're not able to meet until the beginning of next year, like second week, I believe. But I will certainly get with them and see if there's a list of hashing algorithm quantum safe that we should be able to support in 1.7. So good point.
I think they are being processed by the IETF right now, so that should probably be a good time to talk about it.
Yeah, agreed.
When did you say you were going to discuss that? Just for the notes, January, you said, or?
Yeah, this will be likely the second week of January, when the working group will reconvene.
Cool.
Quick updates on the working groups, and then I'll pass it over to the TG chairs. The threat modeling working group is continuing to meet. We unfortunately couldn't meet this week, but the group is currently working on a POC of what threat modeling information could theoretically look like if represented in CycloneDX. So that work is continuing. Blueprints is a little bit less further along. The group is currently working on trying to document behaviors, essentially, of systems and applications. This is a lot of, well, this is going to be, there's going to be a lot of discussion on this. So the group is a lot less further along than, say, the threat modeling group, which is a lot more straightforward. OS sustainability. This working group is we've worked on a number of things, including like an enumeration of the different types of activities that others could theoretically contribute to. We've partnered essentially with the Chaos group. We've extended their list of enumerated things. We're also
But extended a list of the chaos things or the sustainability things?
no, the chaos like list of activities like graphic design and all those
Okay.
other types of activities, right? We've extended that list quite dramatically, actually. There we saw a number of gaps in what chaos had listed, but we used it as essentially a base to as a starting point. Now, I don't know where this is going to end in CycloneDX. It's still not clear to me. I do believe, if I had my magic 8-ball, I do believe that some sustainability information would likely end up in CycloneDX, and other information likely not. But that other thing, I don't know if that other thing is going to be CycloneDX or another specification at this point.
Okay.
Because one thing that we want to do is provide a way for maintainers to assert the type of sustainability information that they need, right? Not everything is financial, right? Sometimes you just need contributions from different things, or maybe contributions from individuals or vendors, or maybe you just want to assert that you're not going to be maintaining this thing anymore, or maybe you're just doing security fixes or whatever. I don't know if that belongs in the CycloneDX specification at this point. But we're continuing to talk about it. It might
it
end up.
is a bit related to common life cycle enumeration.
It is a
Vaguely,
bit
yeah.
related to it. However, yeah, I don't see this as necessarily a time series type of thing like CLE is.
Okay.
So I see this potentially being a situation where the summary information potentially captured in CycloneDX. I think that makes a ton of sense. But the actual like maintenance of like having maintainers actually being able to assert the sustainability information and put that in their own GitHub repo so that tools can use that information, or other like scorecard, for example. You can make scorecard a lot more, you can make it much better if it actually had that information, but it doesn't today. I just don't know if that belongs in CycloneDX or not, or if it's its own thing. If it ends up being its own thing, we might consider a task group 4. I'm not sure. But I will come back once we have essentially a POC of what we think this is going to look like. And I will come back to TC54 with basically asking for some guidance, if that makes sense.
Steve, question for you. Another development was to have you and Salve present at the FOSS Funders group, which is a group out of the To Do OSPO Foundation. That is next Tuesday. You never responded if that was an okay time, so I could forward you the invite.
Yeah, could you? Let's see. That is next Tuesday at
Yeah, let me look. Next Tuesday at 1 p.m. Eastern, I guess 12 p.m. your time.
12 p.m. my time. I have an
Evening
OWASP board
time
meeting.
for Salve.
Yeah, I have an OWASP board meeting at that time, but if Salva is able to make it, I think that's fine. He's been the one leading the majority of this. If you actually do need me there, which is fine, I'd have to make it a different day.
Yeah, we meet regularly at Tuesdays at 1, so I don't think we can adjust this, unfortunately.
Yeah,
A day
yeah.
or day of the week or
Dates. No,
date?
like the next time you guys meet. If you actually need me there, I can make it in
Okay,
a
I'll
future
confirm
time.
with Salva that still works for him, independent of you. But I did just forward it to you. We'd have to do it in the new year if that doesn't
Okay,
work.
that's fine.
But I'll circle back.
The patents working group, this one is actually making some fairly good progress. We have met with there's an international standard organization called WIPO, and they work with several hundred patent offices around the world.
Yep.
And we've met with them. We've asked a lot of questions on their specifications, because they do have some very, very robust specifications to represent various patent information and intellectual property information. So the goal of this is really to present the summary information in CycloneDX, and then to use external references as a way to reference the machine readable things, links to the patent information from the various patent offices around the world. So we're making a lot of progress in this group. So this is looking good. With that is Ole, you're on, right? Still?
Yeah. I'm still
Did
here.
you want to present TG1?
I can. Nothing much has happened. We continued in the community group to define the APIs and so, but people are being more and more unreachable because there's some big weekend coming up.
So I
That's
hear.
a bit problematic. Yeah, I don't like that attitude of people, but we just have to live with it. We were supposed to start the formal work in TG1 before Christmas, but I guess it's gonna be in January. You and I, Steve, have to find some time to start that. But we're all set to go, but we haven't got any specifications to actually work on yet. But we're getting closer and closer. I added a link in the wrong place here, Alyssa, but in the agenda above your notes to KoalaCon. We organized an online webinar. We got 170 registrations, but around 50 people participated. But it was a very good webinar where we explained the whys and the hows and usage of the Transparency Exchange API. And I think that having it on YouTube will make a lot of sense. I just had a meeting prior to this with a Siemens company that said, oh, we're distributing that video all around internally. This is going to be our standard. And that's exactly how I wanted that meeting to end up. So we did a very good job, and we handled Steve very well, I think, in that webinar as well.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
That's great. I'm so happy with that. That's amazing, Ole.
We were supposed to have a meeting with the SPDX team this week, but I couldn't do that, so we have to rebook that. But we're trying to reach out in other communities. I have on my list to contact OpenSSF as well to make sure that all organizations are aboard with this and help finalize it. So I think we're doing great progress.
Fantastic. Any questions for Ole? All right. Is Philippe here? He is.
I'm still here. Yes, so on the package URL side, there's quite a few things happening. So generally speaking, we're still on track for a draft submission to the technical 54 committee for review of the core spec for Q1. I hope we won't sleep. I hope we can do it in January, but I'm an optimist, and so Q1 sounds reasonable. We may sleep a bit. There's a certain number of core issues we're tracking, in particular encoding issues. And let me actually paste in the chat the list of 2 Google worksheets which are openly accessible. One is a master sheet where we track all the different issues in order to prioritize the work. And that's also helpful because we're starting next week to have some community calls with the volunteers that are willing to help triage the issues. The second one is more specifically to deal with encoding. So encoding is how we transform the Perl string characters in something that's valid. And we have certain rules whether the slash can be encoded and what are the characters and how we use percent encoding and all that. It's a source of confusion. So what this worksheet is about encoding is organize all the issues and pending PRs and comments by Perl component, so the scheme, the type, namespace name, and so on, so we can resolve them more efficiently and eventually come with a resolution with a new PR to update the spec. That's really the big important part for the core spec, definitely. That gives you a bit of an idea where we're going there. Beyond the core spec, there's we'll see how it goes with the call next week, but there's interesting and essential work that needs to be done on Golang, which is a bit of an oddity when it comes to package URLs. There's a lot of technical details. I don't want to go there in all the details, but that gives you a bit of an idea. Let me put also the link for reference on the issue, or actually discussion, where you have the reference to the meeting if somebody wants to join. It's interesting because it's actually gently organized by some volunteer from Red Hat, which is awesome.
What times are you meeting nowadays?
So here's the link, and let me paste in the chat also for reference. It's going to be at 6 p.m. Central European time. So it's going to be okay for most everyone in the US, and miserable if
you're moving to Wednesdays. Okay.
Yeah, that's a one time for now. We're just trying to get things organized. We'll come with a regular schedule afterwards, starting January.
Yep.
And again, we may need to accommodate folks which are in Asia and Australia, because that's not super convenient for them to go meet at like 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 4 a.m. It's not a cool time for them.
No, we have the same problem in T, and I think we're going to run the formal meetings at the same time, but have I would say open office hours or something, more open discussion meetings in morning time, European.
Yeah, I don't think there's a magic solution. The thing I've seen working is to have two calls, one in the morning European time, one in the evening European time. It accommodates a bit the stuff. But the problem when you have two meetings is that it's disjointed, and it's not great either.
And it also takes your time. But I think OWASP Sam is running an Asia Pacific meeting at one time, and European US meeting at another time.
Yeah. And so I think we're late to publish the meeting notes from last Friday, but I'm pasting the link in the chat at least of the running temporary notes that we used during the call, and should be posted shortly. All the meetings are recorded, posted on YouTube, and we have the meetings minutes, which are posted after a couple of days. So overall, doing great. A lot of renewed energy. I mean, the fact that we apply energy just creates leverage, and there's a lot of renewed interest and a lot of folks that are chiming in and willing to help.
Can I step on your toes and suggest something, Philip?
I
hope it doesn't hurt your toes. There's a lot of discussion about Perl in just about any meeting I'm on. Could we write something up about this and publish either on OWASP blog or somewhere else? I think giving an update on the standardization here would be very beneficial.
Yes, definitely. That would be great. The other thing I forgot to mention, which I just discovered yesterday evening, is a YouTube presentation
Is this from the CVE meeting?
Yes, CV working group, CV quality working group that I heard about yesterday from Tom Ulrich, and I reached out.
I sent him that link.
Okay, so that's thanks to you, awesome. And I reached out to the folks there, and they want to have. So they had a whole discussion a couple of weeks ago about package URL as a replacement or adjunct to CPE in the public meetings of CV.
I can update you on part of that discussion.
Okay.
Mr. Springett from CycloneDX was heavily involved, but we do have some ideas on testing package URLs in CV database, and the CV database have a playground where we can do this. But our idea was really to try to put some CNAs that we know and love in the corner and pressure them to actually start adding package URLs and push them into CV and see what happens.
Yeah. So anyway, the long story short there is that there's been contact established with the CV working group between you,
Beautiful.
Steve, me, and they're looking forward to have some kind of discussion on the topic in January, which is great.
We also had a discussion about setting up an official liaison between OWASP and CV.org. I think we have that with other organizations, and I think that would be very beneficial, so that CV.org actually appreciate OWASP as being representative for users of CV, especially our projects. We have Dependency Track, we have CycloneDX, we have many projects that depend upon CV. So I think that would be very beneficial. I think, but that has to go through Steve and the board, I think.
Yeah. So last on my side, there's beyond the Ecma standardization work, we're going to be working towards building a compact database and dataset of all the pearls that would be continuously updated and made available for as libraries and tools, and for tools and application builders that use Perl to validate that their pearls are minimally correct. That's something I've been resisting for a long period of time. I thought it would have been not needed, but it is needed. And that's going to be very useful because that will avoid the kind of issues that we see in the wild, where there's a lot of creativity in creating new pearls. The problem with that is if you have incorrect identifiers, then any kind of automation in your software supply chain is just completely moot. So that's it on my side.
So we've got a lot of issues here. Philippe, how can people contribute if they're watching this on YouTube? How can people contribute to this effort?
So the best way to contribute is we need to coordinate, and that's the goal of this first meeting next week, to coordinate community triage operations. So we're gonna take it from there, but the thing is that there's, I want to make sure we coordinate, because we're working toward the spec, and we want to trim down the volume of issues. It's tempting to address first, for instance, things related to a single package type, because that may be the package you care for, except that it's not super useful for the short-term goals of making sure we push the spec toward Ecma as a standard. And so I want to make sure we can focus more on the issues which are tagged as core spec, because behind the spreadsheet, which is more of a working document, all the information is updated in the issues, and all the issues have been tagged, all the PRs have been tagged, and you see the column called Ecma spec. Things which are not tagged at Ecma spec, yes, it's likely things which are not in the important and urgent category. Even though some issues like, we really need to have a call logo goes into the high priority but low urgency.
Understood.
So the thing is, looking at the things that are specifically around the spec is awesome. Helping on resolving encoding issues to making sure we don't leave any dark corners is important. That would be the two main issues. And just don't go do it in the wild, but join the meetings, join the Slack and Matrix channels, communicate on the discussion to make sure you ask how you can help, and we'll be very responsive to reply.
Fantastic. Thanks, Philippe. not on the agenda, because it's technically we haven't kicked off the first meeting yet. But TG3 is having its very, very first official Ecma meeting in a few hours. So we have
Oh.
decided to, instead of having the community meetings and then the Ecma meetings, we have decided as a group to consolidate that and into just one meeting, because who wants more meetings? But yeah, we're holding our very first one at 2 p.m. Eastern today, I believe is the time. So the next time we meet, I should be able to provide an update on that.
Does that mean that the Wednesday meetings are deleted?
That's a great question. I think so. I think the community meetings are going to be gone. But let me just verify that. I think I removed it from the calendar, but yeah, I'll have to check. Of potential interest, I'm going to be just doing a quick update on the documentation, but in order to update everyone on the documentation, I do want to let everyone know that I have created 4 new repositories in our GitHub organization. There is one for Perl, there's one for T, there's one for CLE, and there's one for Ecma 424, also known as CycloneDX. Now the structure of these repos will essentially be Ecma and then the Ecma number. So for example, this one for Perl, it will be renamed once an Ecma identifier is assigned to it. So ultimately, this is going to be Ecma for something in the future. Same with T, same with CLE. The reason why I'm showing you this is that this is where the actual specifications themselves are going to live. We have made a fairly decent amount of progress in the documentation. This is the current Perl documentation. All of these specs are using the same framework called EC markup. That allows us to both generate online documentation as well as the pixel perfect PDFs that are distributed on the Ecma website through a single build process. So, so we're going to be using this for Perl, T, and for CLE. All of these are set up already. Perl is the furthest along because I have more documentation for Perl. But essentially, this is what it all looks like. But again, we have them for the Transparency Exchange API as well. And then, of course, we have it for the common lifecycle enumeration as well. We do not currently have it for CycloneDX. This is going to be a lot more work. The other specifications are either small in terms of like Perl, right? It's not a 1,000-page document. It's a fairly short document by comparison. And then, of course, T and CLE, these are both greenfield. So there's nothing I need to kind of retrofit. CycloneDX is just the opposite. There's a lot that I need to go through in order to use EC markup. So this is going to be a multi-month process to be able to adopt this. But for all the existing specifications, this is basically the type of documentation that we're going to be reviewing in the future. So with that, we're going to be, when we're authoring like Transparency Exchange API or CLE, for example, we're going to be using these repositories because this is the source of truth for the actual specification.
Yep.
Any questions on kind of where we're at with documentation?
I guess you want us to spend Christmas learning EC markup then.
Sure, why not? If you're, completely bored, why not? I do not plan to learn this. I mean, I learned enough to be able to do it. It's actually not overly difficult though. I mean, you have some extra tags that are defined here. And what's under the covers is just mountains and mountains and mountains of CSS to make this all happen. And all of this was designed by TC39. They've done a fantastic job on doing this. The CSS alone is mind-boggling. There is one tool in that specifically we take the output of this spec.html, for example. This is the thing that we run through the build process that either generates this either in the build process does a single page as well as multi-page documentation, but it also generates those pixel perfect PDFs. There's a single tool that we're aware of called Prints XML that supports all of these CSS print media types. That is also part of the build process. We're waiting for TC39 to merge in one final PR. So technically our PDFs are not that great right now, but once this other PR gets merged in for TC39, our PDFs are going to look just like what you see on the Ecma website. So that's going to be truly amazing.
I see that you set up GitHub workflows and everything. So a big
Yeah,
thank you
this
for
is
that.
completely automated. Yeah, so this is completely automated. So there's GitHub Actions. So it's all done on CI. I think we can also build these manually if we want to. So so either way kind of works. But yeah, all that is automatically set up. So there's nothing that I or anyone else has to do manually.
So we have this repository, but then each working group have another repository. Is that for meeting notes, etc.?
That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And that is all the updates that I have. Is there any new business that folks want to bring up?
Next meeting, we have Christmases and all that mess going on.
Next meeting, yes, is going to be in what,
Ooh.
January sometime, right?
Yeah, just to make a note of that so people don't have to spend a lot of time in the ServiceNow waiting room.
Sorry about that. My prior meeting went a little over. Yeah. And of course, Samina can't be in two places at once
No.
because she's tending to the General Assembly, which is, I believe, in New York, and hosted by Bloomberg this time around.
Okay. And we still have access to Alyssa here.
We do, I know. Daniel, however, we don't.
Yeah.
Big congratulations to Daniel, who was just elected president of Ecma Management. So
Yeah, we're excited for that.
that's awesome.
Oh.
And let's see, our next meeting is scheduled for when? It's scheduled for the second week of January. So that's January 9th. So I know I intend to be
good.
back that week. But if we can't get quorum, we can push it. But I do intend to be back that week.
Yeah, that should be fun.
Okay, so January 9th is the next meeting. Again, if people want to add things to the agenda, all the agenda items are here. So I haven't created the January 9th agenda markdown yet, but I'll do that today after this call. If folks want to add things to the agenda, feel free. So far, not a lot of people have done that, but this is everybody's meeting, so feel free to add items if you want the group to address some things. And with that, if there's no other orders of business, we can give you 15 minutes, 14 minutes back.
Thank you. I like getting Christmas presents early.
Here.
Cheers.
Happy holidays all.
All right.
Happy
Take care.
holidays.
Bye.
See you all.
Bye.
Bye.
See ya.